by in the yellow and green. Stick around and you'll see what I mean. There's a mountain top that I'm dreaming of. If you need me, you know where I'll be. I'll be riding shotgun under
Charlotte Open and Gorbachev first of the day. Diakia Shark with the big bounce coming after it. Swallows it up the last little bit. Wow, what a return. Cyber Attack, too good. Will win. But right on the line, Sam Weatherly and Charles Road will grab Big Mike. Deep sea diving round the clock, bikini bottoms, lager tops. I could get used to this. Time flies by. Melody Bell, high flyer in our Aberdeen. Melody Bell, she is so tough. Melody Bell, she's been too good.
I'm dreaming of. If you need me, you know where I'll be. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like a someone. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like a someone. We got two in the front, two in the back, sailing along.
Well, 6 days ago we were able to witness the first Group 1 of the new racing season taken by Melody Bell and the team from Te Akau. Good morning and welcome to the first call as we start to paint the picture for our spring features kicked off in the Tarzino last week by Melody Bell. We've got some news on her very shortly. Jason Tan, Michael Guerin on board. Jason, good morning. How's the last week been? You're a few hairs short.
I don't know what you're talking about, Matthew, but somehow there was more money raised beyond the 6,000 to 10,000 last week. That
Can I touch it?
You can if you like. I got caught up in a Twitter storm.
It's like a spider.
Yeah, caught up in a Twitter storm where I committed my locks to going if we reached a secondary target with Butch Castles, or got tied in with Andrew Castles, and yeah,
it's a great cause.
So it was tweeted. So
actually remarkable. Well, congratulations on you guys raising $10,000, but I'm actually stunned. Nobody looked that bad. Like, we've got a picture of the boys coming up, and they actually look pretty good, I thought. So, look, it suits you. Your modelling career was probably stuffed anyway.
I don't think it's hurt any profiles that I've got on social media, let's put it that way. I don't think it's diminished them because, you know...
While it was a cool weekend, it was such a weird weekend coming up this weekend, haven't we? Because we've got one of the shortest races of the year, the first 2-year-old race of the year at Wanganui, and then the next day we have the longest race of the year, which this year is 6,300 metres at Te Aroha, which isn't at Ellerslie, which the Great Northern usually goes to. So it's a really odd sort of twilighty, almost like the changeover weekend. Like we're going from, okay, jumps is going to finish, and thank you for winter, and then we're going to move into 2s and 3-year-olds and all that sort of stuff. So it's an interesting time. But it was cool last week, the coverage from Hawke's Bay. It felt like we were back in real racing, if want of another word. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but it felt like a real race day again. You know?
Oh, it was good. Good coverage from the team, Jason. And Aidan was on course. He's not here today. Sitting himself in Nelson, I believe.
Yeah, he's on a break in Nelson.
Is he really?
You talk about transition, Michael, but the interesting thing about it is it's like the weather has sort of got the picture. It was horrendously wet most parts of New Zealand early in the week. So the tracks this weekend will be heavy. But they'll be holding because today around much of the country it's going to be clear and fine, and that's the expectation for much of the country tomorrow and Sunday. So yeah, hopefully that fine weather can help the tracks sort of come back and firm up.
It actually makes it really tricky for me because at Wanganui Edinburgh, which is our feature meeting we're going to preview, I'm not sure whether I'm thinking horses are going to be suited by the inside or the outside, and I don't mean to be sort of sitting on the fence, but I'm going to watch a couple of those early races before I start thinking what's going to happen in these 3-year-old races, particularly the 3-year-old girls race, where you have London Express, who could be favourite drawn the outside, and Peaceful, who could also be favourite drawn the inside. The way the track plays in the first 3 races could completely change the way I look at punting into that race.
Bonneville heading to Victoria this week as well. She'll go around in the Dato Tan Chin Nam Stakes. Is that how you say? I think it is.
I actually met Dato once. Did you? Lovely man, very quiet.
Okay, nice. That's a good point.
So she won it last year, and I looked at the price this year and I thought, gee, is it impossible to think that she couldn't do it again?
It's a bizarre weight for age race because the horse who's favourite for it is Night Watch, who's not a weight for age horse.
Exactly.
And he's actually in there because a mate of mine owns him to try and get into the Caulfield Cup because it's a
when you're in,
quarterfinal, right? Exactly. And he's favourite even though he's never won a weight for age race, and he won an all right race last week. Last year when Bonneville won this race, I spoke to Andrew Forsman, co-trainer this week. He said she's more forward, but last year's race there was a horse who got away from the rider and caused a crazy early tempo, which sort of set it up for her, whereas most early season weight for age races don't tend to be run that way. So I'm not sure whether she can expect the same tempo, but when I looked at the field and you go through them, you go, well, we know she's as good as Hartnell because she thrashed him last year in the Underwood. So that will be the real start of spring. You know, we have our best two-time horse of the year coming back in a serious race, and probably kicks off the Australian campaigns because I think Baker Forsman have 5 or 6 there. Charles Road won last week and he'll end up there eventually, and Ladies First we think might end up there. We could have not the strongest spring team in a long time, Matt, but I think one of the biggest spring teams we've had from this country for a while.
One horse that will be missing from that spring team, unfortunately, is the horse known and held close to the hearts of many at Te Akau, Jerry Gingernuts. During the week was announced his retirement, and obviously it wasn't an easy decision for them, but they put the welfare of the horse at the top of the tree per se, and I suppose he's going to enjoy his life in the paddock now. Yeah,
congratulations to all those that are involved in the ownership and management of Gingernuts, 3-time Group 1 winner. And a real talk horse for social media. Probably one of the first real social media talk horses that we've seen since social media has become significant here in New Zealand. And so a lot of people have been engaged with him through that medium, primarily Twitter, also Facebook.
And the name helps. I mean, the name Bone Crusher definitely helps, and then you've got to perform. But Gingernuts is something we've all grown up with as kids, and it's just something you relate to very easily.
Loathed or loved, basically.
Yeah, exactly right. So, look, I thought last weekend was interesting in so many other ways. Melt was really interesting, and obviously Ahura against Avantage and the 1,000 Guineas, they're both heading that way, is going to be, you know, maybe the clash of the early spring, if not the Cup Carnival. So, yeah, it's an intriguing time, but this weekend's going to feel a little bit like that weird twilight zone because we're fitting 2 things into one space.
And Melody Bell is going to the second leg of the
Windsor Park
Triple Crown, the Windsor Park, so that was confirmed too, which is great news because you always like the last Group 1 winner to be in the next Group 1 race.
Well, she sets herself up very nicely early doors to have an attempt at Sprinter of the Year. She's won a Group 2 1200 and a Group 1 1400 already. And considering there weren't many horses, there was no galloper in the country last year won 2 Group 1 races. So she's already halfway to getting close enough to a nice horse of the year type award thing, you know, being in the offing for her. But that's a long way away. We've got Wanganui to worry about yet.
We certainly do, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. We've got Dan O'Sullivan coming up on the show later. He'll talk about the Dato Tan Chinam Stakes, featuring our very own Bonneville. Before we get into the racing, though, let's look at the bank totals from last week with some good results around Ruakaka.
I thought we were going to push on from this, Matthew, but of course you're leading by over 2,000.
This is my favourite part of the show now.
Yeah, exactly.
I still had a loss though. Still lost, I think, $70.
Still trucking along very nicely. It's sort of a length there.
I just want to clarify. I've only been on this for 1 week, so that isn't like 6 weeks of like $172.
Yeah, this is your last week too, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I would suggest so. I mean, surely someone has to come back and do a better job than this. But what I would say is this: this week, if I had the 3,000 you've got in your bank, I've got an MBJ. An MBJ, I've only ever said it once on Trackside before, is a maximum bet job. Maximum bet job, so we're putting my whole $172 on a horse tomorrow, and I'll be perfectly honest, I'll be having more than that.
OK, well, we'll find out a little later on what that said horse is that Michael Guerin has found for us. Let's set the scene at Wanganui, the home of 2 feature 3-year-old races. We've got the Aliris Filly Stakes and the HS Dyke Wanganui Guineas, expecting a heavy 10 track condition. Rail in the true position. Can be a testing track and often horses for courses, Jason.
Yeah, very much. And as Michael mentioned, not quite sure about the track pattern in terms of being definitive, but history says outside fence after a race or two is where jockeys will be heading when the track is heavy 10, heavy 11. So you'd expect that to be the case, even though that's probably more worn than the inside, given that we're coming out of winter.
OK, it is race number 7 on the card at 25 minutes after 4, and we'll have a look at the market now for it, which will see Botti as the race favourite for the Baker Forsman team, and Matthew Cameron to take the ride to $73.60 for 8 and Narted and $5.50 for Red Beach. What's Botti been up to, Jason Tan, since his last start, and where do you see him in the speed map?
He had a trial nearly 4 weeks ago, must be, at Avondale, and on the face of it, you'd sort of look at it and go, not so sure about this trial, but I really liked it. Where he settles in the run, I have him back of midfield. I think Atanat and Mohaka and Red Beach potential pace in the race. And again, you know, this is a 2D map, and we're saying they'll be on the rail, but by race number 7, they could be, you know, heading off the rail, and there could be sort of 3 or 4 widths.
That's the key to the whole race, isn't
exactly.
it? Because Atenaten has such an advantage if the rail is on, and it's in the true, and if it's scooting along and getting across the ground, that could be good. But if they're getting to the outside, even though he potentially has the ability to dictate the line of the others, it's going to be awfully hard. And that's the key of the whole day. Look, honestly, watched the races early, but here he is last time we saw him at the races. He's trialled since. He was really good here, and when you look at this more, it looks like they're getting to him, and he goes behind the saddle, and sorry, she does, my apologies. And
that's a gelding.
The last 100, not the jockey.
Oh, sorry.
the last 100 actually goes away from them again. It's actually really good here. Like
Danielle is definitely not
and look, the last 100 really good. Went to the trials subsequent to that and just hacked up and bolted and come out of the gates like it had been shot out of a cannon. From barrier 1, I'm almost certain it's going to lead, as Jason said, on the speed map. And then it's a question of whether Body can come around it. It may well be able to. It is nommed or going to be nommed for the VRC Derby. So clearly they're thinking serious races. But I think we're going to disagree here, my little fairy-headed friend. I was at that trial that day because one of my horses was in it. And I thought they couldn't let Body go. And it makes me wonder how many times he's been let go in the last month. Because a lot of horses are trialling at the moment and not letting their heads go. And it didn't affect Melt last week at Ruakaka. She just jumped, she just bolted it. But
actually, you mentioned Melt because that was a very similar type of trial.
It was exactly the same trial.
Right, except that I suppose Botty did settle back, and I thought that Cameron at about the 550, 600 decided, okay, let's see what you can do. And he slid forward to the top of the straight, 50 metres into the straight, said, okay, that's enough, and switched it off. And I thought he showed something.
Is that enough to make him fit enough to run over top of Atenaten?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do.
So I'm the other way, which is probably bad for Atenaten. Sorry. But did you see his trial? He went to Foxton last week for the trials.
Yes.
Gee, he looks a fit horse.
No doubt that
while we're talking about them, we're going to go and have a look at Botty at Pukekohe and have a look at his first run to the races. After this, he has had a subsequent trial, but let's take a look and see what he is capable under race day conditions. Botty, here he is, just looming up Michael outside of him. He puts him to bed pretty easily here. Obviously a step up, but he's got a bit of class.
He's bred to be good. The stable win these races just almost weekly. They won 24 stakes races last season. Jason, I've got no doubts he's the best horse in this race. I have enough doubt that at 2.7, I'm not sure I want to find out.
That's the question. It's very hard to price because to the eye you think, oh, this looks a nice horse, and you're going off that one performance that simply is an inferior overall performance than what Atenaten has done at his last start and even the start before. But that's not to say that this horse can't find the necessary to put a performance that's going to be beyond what Atenaten's capable of. And that really is a dilemma. Like, I accept that, but I really liked what I saw in the trial. I think he'll settle back off midfield. If they are swooping, then that will very much suit him, and I think he's going to show a really special turn of foot that will have him hard to beat.
I look at it this way. Leaders track or fair track, I'm going the 1. Swoopers track, I'm going the 3. Really surprised to see so many fillies in here.
Haven't really talked about Red Beach, who was good on debut. I think Hattie B is an intriguing runner, coming back after a 2-year-old campaign where she didn't look too bad on occasions. In fact, some of her better performances would have her competitive to me. Not a bad idea. He was very good at Taupo when he debuted.
Really good.
He sat wide and he just dealt to them late. He was very strong on the line.
And long striding horse, and Taupo you thought may have upset him, but gee, because it's such a tight little track. I thought he was a horse who could come out and win this and wouldn't surprise me. I just think it's a tricky race for punters, unless you're willing to watch all day, Matthew, and make up your mind on how the track's playing. And that may not affect it, but I think it probably will. And even Bobby Dazzler was so brave on his debut win and then went up to a difficult grade next time out. I think this is a trick race, and I'll be happy not to play if the track's still confusing me by that stage of the day.
Jason?
I'm going to bet Botty. It is very much on spec, but if he wins this, I expect that the next move will be to Australia and to pick a path towards the VRC Derby. So I think he'll be forward enough, given what I saw in that trial. He'll run well.
If I'm betting, I'll bet Atenaten. What about you?
Botty. Just a spec bet. purely based on reputation, I suppose.
Yep. And also the stable, man. They get it right so often, it's hard not to fall in love with the age group horses.
And don't get us wrong, Eitan could continue to
I wouldn't
improve.
be dishing out the L word. I don't sort of fall in love too quickly with horses.
Well, and with that haircut, I wouldn't expect any residual
Well,
love to be
there's
coming
not
back the other
reciprocated
way,
in that, is for sure. Yeah.
Some people like that sort of thing.
We've got some winners to find, and we're going to move over to the O'Leary Filly Stakes now for the 3-year-old girls as the picture starts to fall into place for the 1,000 guineas. Peaceful and Secret Allure, $4.20 a piece, but London Express has come up as the $4 favourite, $2 class, $8.50. Jason, what were your thoughts on the market? Did you have similar prices to what is on tab.co.nz?
The bookmakers, I haven't got much different at all. There's one horse that maybe could run better than the price that I see there, and that's the Real Deal. Otherwise, I've no argument. Maybe Secret Allure's a touch on the short side. So I'd say maybe there's room. There's value for the 4, and maybe the 3's a fraction tight. But no knock on the 1 and the 2 being priced at 3 to 1.
I can't remember a race more recently where I'll be interested to see whether the inside or the outside of the track is the place to be, because London Express, if the outside of the track's the place to be, could start $2.50, and if the inside's the place to be, Peaceful could start $3. And I have no idea which one of those things is true. London Express I really like. Peaceful may be the more progressive, but I wouldn't be stunned if London Express was a factor in the 1,000 guineas.
There's good pace in the race, and I think there's good sort of pace that comes from all across the track. So I've mapped a few horses wide there. It's more to illustrate that they can go forward. Quite where they'll settle, it's really hard to necessarily tell, but they are horses that I think, that's the shape of those horses going forward. So
wouldn't you just wait though? I mean, isn't this the best example we're going to see probably for the next month or two of a 1 versus a 12, almost equal favourites in a 12-horse field? So I just can't bet into this race now without knowing.
I completely agree with you, but we'll still sort of pick the bones out of it. But I completely agree with you. The pattern's huge, like the pattern is huge because there's nothing there's about a length between 6 of them.
Who's better then, the 1 or the 2, and what you've seen?
Again, it comes down to tracks. So I'd say London Express, I'd be happy to be on her on a heavy track. Peaceful, I think, I'm not quite sure because, look, here London Express was brilliant, beats home Secret Allure, and she did some really good work late, but it was a race that was run hard and she was entitled to sort of come like she did. And she was very strong on the line. Mind you, Kiji Express showed last week that he's maybe not so strong on the line.
And then when she went to the trials after that, and a totally different type of performance on this occasion, but again, just wins easy. They went to the middle of the track and soft enough hands.
This is a super trial.
Very, very. She's obviously she hasn't had much of a break. Like Peaceful would have had a longer break, and she's just hacked up there. I'm like, look, I'm going to go her over Peaceful, and that's 2 races in a row where I'm tipping strongly against the Baker Forsman stable when they're going to have the favourite. But I'm going to wait. I'm going to be in Nelson tomorrow for the footy. I might hang out with Aidan actually, and I'm going to watch the first 2 or 3 races and see what I'm thinking is going to happen for race 4.
Some of us will still be here working, doing the business.
Hey, no one cares.
Let's have a look at Peaceful. We'll go to Peaceful now and take in its win back at Te Rapa on June the 9th. This was over 1,400 metres, looms up. She looks like she's got a bit of class about her, Jason Tan. And from the very powerful Baker Forsman team, are you happy to be on her under any circumstances? What do you think needs to unfold for Peaceful?
Well, as Michael mentioned, an even track where the inside isn't disadvantageous. If the inside's an okay place to be, then she's clearly one of the leading chances. She can settle just behind the pace, get a very economical trip, and then produce a sprint like that. She's gone past Cyber Attack, who we saw win the Al Rocker Sir Colin Meads Trophy last week.
And she still holds a nomination for the 1,000 guineas in Australia, not our 1,000 guineas here, but the 1,000 guineas at Caulfield. So they must think a bit of it to have her at least in that ballpark.
Yeah, and I thought the Real Deal could potentially improve off that fresh run at Taupo. The visor blinkers will go on her. She's worked okay. She'll go forward as long as she doesn't have to work too hard. At times, as a 2-year-old, she showed she showed plenty of ability. It's a Phillies race. She showed plenty of ability, but was just a little bit unfurnished and green.
She was a bit weak.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually bid it on at the sales. the real deal. And she wasn't an over. I think she was 110 at the end for a Savabeel filly, and I think she'll grow into a really nice filly. Just not sure a heavy track's going to be her go. I'm just not sure she's a ploughing type of a horse.
Michael, what's your summary on what we know now?
Honestly, I'm not trying to be indecisive. I'm just going to watch the first 3 races, park up somewhere with a cup of coffee and try and enjoy them. And then if I genuinely think the outside's the place to be, I'm going to have a good bet on London Express. If I think the inside is the place to be, or at least the track is racing fair, so the draws don't matter as much, I'm going to have a good bet on Peaceful. That's as honest as I can be, and I know that doesn't help you right now, but...
Well, it's a good way to put it.
Oh,
Jason?
okay, good, thanks.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Michael said about how the track plays. I'm happy to go London Express on the basis that I do expect them to come to the outside, but it's still a guess. And the real deal, I thought at the moment, was a touch of value at just under $10. Haven't really talked about Tout de la Classe. She hasn't been too bad, but like I must say, I was a little bit disappointed that she didn't produce a bit more in her last start against Adenarton. But, you know, she maps to get a really sweet run in the race.
I thought they had her tight enough for what she is. I mean, if the top of the market's got $4, well, there's 75% of the market. Having her $8, I think she could be double figures. I'm not saying that because I don't like the horse, but something has to drift, and I think she might be the one.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to stick with our Wanganui preview next, but Emily Boston, she was on board with us last week with her all-new segment, Money Makers. How did she go?
Welcome into week 2 of the first call, Moneymakers. I hope you got the 4.8 around Melody Bell last week in the Group 1. This week, I'm going with the policy, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm going back to Jamie Richards and Shafiq Roussoff once again. This time is with a horse called Devil May Care, lightly raced individual with plenty of ability who finds itself in a winnable race at Riccarton.
Here's Devil May Care under its own steam coming after Mongolian Conqueror. Mongolian Conqueror, though, punched out for home for Opie Boss, and Mongolian Conqueror, the son of Ocean Park. The
second horse I'm really looking forward to seeing return to the racetrack is Botty. Comes from the Baker Forsman stable, had 1 start for 1 win, a super impressive victory at that. Returns in the Wanganui Guineas with Matt Cameron on board. I had a chat to Matt during the week and he said its work has been really good. He's a laid-back customer who's just handling everything in his stride, so should have no issues on Saturday.
Shut the gate time, and Botty's going to race away. The son of Jackleberry to win on debut. Second.
Good luck with your investments this week. I'll be back same time, same place.
Got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. Come on, like the way we rock it, so don't stop. Under the lights when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know.
Fantastic work there from the 3 gentlemen at Hawke's Bay, Adam Rodley, Bevan Sweeney and Brendan Popplewell, joined by Jason Tan. There he is.
Late on the bench.
If I gave you an extra $100, would you shave MG into the side of your head?
Absolutely disgraceful.
I'll give you another 100 free try
if you shave MG into the side of your head, just for a day.
Yeah, you can't just shave it in for a day. 100 free eyebrow.
You can wear a hat.
No?
No.
Okay, let's move on.
I'm not like some play toy guy.
Tell me what...
To all those people that have donated, congratulations to you. You've got on board, and without those donations,
I gave 500 instead of shaving my head, because I would just look like a criminal with a shaved head.
With a shaved head?
What about you?
I donated.
No, but what about you if you shaved
Hair's not going.
No.
Can't lose the hair. Boss won't let me.
No.
We'll leave it at that.
Boss won't let
Cora
you.
Angel Syndicate Open over 1,200 metres is race number 3 at Wanganui on Saturday.
You just don't want to do it. You just don't want to do it.
And it's Lisa Allpress taking on the apprentices here. Do we just single her out with Petit Enjeu? There's a couple of smarties in here though, Jason.
Well, she did it the other day on Rosewood, or a couple of starts ago on Rosewood when she was up against apprentices. And she has done it before, but this is a really tricky race because you've got some quality resuming. I think Shadows Cast is a very good horse from anywhere from 1,200 up to 1,600 metres at the moment. And I know that Mark Olligan has indicated that he's wanted to get it up over more ground than time, but from what I've seen, you're thinking 14-16's a big plus. Henny, high-class mare, 4th in a Group 1. So there's a bit to this race. And you've got Manhattan Street, who I think can get an uncontested lead if Ryan Elliott's positive, and we get back to the whole track pattern scenario. Petite Angers can go forward, she's prismatic, has speed. Henny, I think, can spot just in behind them, but there's not a heck of a lot of pressure in the race.
Which plays against Scapolo.
Yes.
I didn't see the race setting up nicely for him, even though he's up to about rider 6,000 or something. He's leaving another different rider this week. I agree with you. It's a tricky race. I think there's a very obvious safe bet in the race, and that's Art Deco. Should posse up midfield, fit horse, will find the line. There's just so much to like about Art Deco. Probably got to the front a bit too early here, and when it got dive bombed, you thought, well, might not have seen the other horse with the blinkers on. But it's just going to be in the right place to be the factor in the race, and you get the feeling that whoever beats it will probably win.
I felt Phil would have moved in a bit here because, like, if you go when you do and you get run over by Rosewood, then yeah, it looks like you've gone too early. But remember when he was on Rosewood at Trentham, and it's sort of a scenario where he sort of got that timing wrong, and I thought with 51 kilo that you're entitled to really ask her for something, yeah. But as it turned out, yeah, sitting shot, Rosewood just chases horses down.
I think it was more the horse got just, you know, sometimes when they're that far in front, they get bored or lost and a horse just swoops them, and when they get a chance to see them, they get into a fight. But he couldn't wait for the other horse. I wasn't criticising the ride, he just sort of ended up there in front. But I can see it happening again, where about the 400, it's the horse cruising into the race, and then you start saying to yourself, well, how much pressure, who's following it, where are they coming from? A horse who I don't think about as a Wanganui horse, I think about as a Riccarton horse, is Henny. But man, the trial the other day was just a lot of horses, and I'm not saying Foxton trials are going to produce a whole bunch of winners, but we haven't had that many trials in the CD. It just jogged up and won. Gee, it looked like a horse, I know it's an 8-year-old mare, but it looked like a horse who could turn up and win a race very quickly.
I spoke to Mike Breslin about that, and he said that he does have her more forward than past campaigns. Historically, she's had a trial and maybe a jump out that you haven't seen before, the fresh up campaign. She's had 2 good trials, and as you say, the latest one really caught the eye. But he's wanting to potentially get her up over 1,600 metres this campaign. Not quite sure exactly where, but the Copelands has been discussed. So he wouldn't be surprised if she ran well, but you know, she has got a campaign ahead of her, and he's a bit concerned that on a, you know, if the track is sort of holding, that might not suit her, even though she's one of the more versatile horses going around. But yeah, Henny's one that I looked at, I thought, off that trial.
But they haven't missed it in the market. It's about $5.50, which is, it's a big ask for a shot, but I just thought the trial was really, really good.
Red Sierra went to Riccarton Park, contested the Winter Cup. Before that, she did this to them at Trentham. She was very, very good. And this secured her favouritism pre-barrier draw for the Winter Cup. And she obviously went there and the race wasn't completely run to suit for her. But we're going to have a look at this, Jason, and then the trial with Henny winning. If this sort of Red Sierra came out and did this on Saturday, would it be winning?
It'll go close. Yeah, definitely. It's performed well at Whanganui before, so the freshen up suits, and she's got there really, you know, quite soft on the line. Look, she stepped up to the Winter Cup, they put her over more ground, but she still did things well late. And this is Henny with Red Sierra and that trial, and yeah, both of them big ticks here. Like Red Sierra was just kept up to the mark just behind Henny, but yeah, both of them look really well, actually.
I just thought it was a tricky race, because if Red Sierra is getting back, as tends to be the racing pattern, you're going to be giving some pretty decent horses a start. I thought Shadow's Cast was good at the trials too, but I agree with you, it's definitely 1,600 and up to 2,000 for him maybe later on. But the horse out of all of that, again, we go back to the conversation of 3 minutes ago, who's going to be in the right spot and we know is fit enough is Art Deco. The other ones have all got those sort of little, well, the trial was good, sort of freshen up question marks about them. So Art Deco's the bet, even though no one's missed it, to be honest.
No room for Scapolo?
I love Scapolo.
Leave him out at your peril type thing?
Scapolo's the Matt Todd of New Zealand racing. He just keeps turning up and doing what you expect him to do, but in this race I expect him to be close to last with a lot of horses who are going to dictate his line.
And very similar turns of foot as him. So he's going to be coming with Shadow's Cast, Red Sierra potentially. They can all really sprint a sectional. So is he going to be able to concede them wait and run past them? He is very good, but I don't know.
He got 62.5 and they've claimed the 4, which sounds good, but everybody's claiming outside the lesser all press right. So everybody keeps going back down. So he actually hasn't claimed off the 62 because everybody else has done the same thing.
So the horse that I looked at actually, and I've gone a little bit out of left field, a horse that doesn't fit quite there, or isn't quite there on ratings, but I thought on the pattern of the race could steal some of it, and that's Manhattan Street. I really like him back to 1,200 metres. He ran well enough at Riccarton over, Lisa Ladder decided to try him over 1,400 and 1,600 metres in those races, and he ran well. But I think 1,200 metres, he can really perform if he's able to find the front, be rated, and then, yeah, he's still dependent a little bit on the track pattern, but he looked like he could be worth specking, even though he's well out of it on the handicaps.
So we each way for you, Manhattan Street?
If I was going to have a play, then looking at that price, I wouldn't mind an each way on Manhattan Street, but it's not a race I'm that interested in playing into, to be
Art
fair.
Deco's had 6 starts over 1,200, never run out of the money. 2 wins, 4 placings. Go the bet the same way. If your bet's $10, or you're a $10 player, have $5 a win, 5 a place, or $3 a win, 7 a place. It's not going to miss a place.
Okay, very good. There we go. We're going to move over to race number 6 on the card. And again, we see a Myers runner heading up the top of the book with Duffers Creek under 60 kilos. Zinjite Moki claims 3 down to 57. $8.50 for Samson. Single figures, all under $8.50 for runners 4 through 9. What do you make of this market, Jason Tan?
Again, it illustrates the number of chances in the race. Peso has had a jump out. Hamiltonian actually comes into the race pretty well. Strolling Vagabond I thought was decent enough. Down Riccarton over the Carnival on the 2 days there. Woodsman's coming afoot. Samson is on the way up. Duffers Creek was no chance last start. 2 starts ago at Waverley, was very good behind Ram Sam Sam and Hello Milady. Decent pace in it. With Peso, you want more Woodsman. Strolling Vagabond should be able to get one of the runs of the race, and I'd expect Samson to pos in midfield. So you should be a genuinely run race.
Peso's won a jump out since his last win, is that correct?
Yes, correct, yes, by 6 lengths.
This race here, while Woodsman won it, and a couple of the others in it, Pecoris and Duffers Creek, I'm not sure this is a great form race going forward, to be honest.
Agreed.
And for that reason, I think the fact that Woodsman is relatively tight in the market, I'm not saying it can't win, but...
This is one of the weirdest races I've seen over the winter. Like a small field, there ended up being decent pressure. Duffers Creek just was disconnected by 6 and 7 lengths during the running. I don't know.
I can see them going hard in this race, and for that reason, I like the old dogs for the hard road. Let's not forget, Samson's a pretty serious horse. We'll talk more about him and old Dr. Watson in a
big
second.
5 to midnight in the Awapuni Gold Cup.
Exactly right.
He's proper.
Here's Strolling Vagabond. I thought it had a right to close maybe better than this. I mean, the winner up against the inside I'm willing to forget about, but it's in the pack and it finishes 4th, so 2 others get past it in the last 200. Would they win this race? Potentially. But forget the winner being away so far. It was all right to the line, but it didn't say to me I'm a next up winner, and yeah, it's claiming 3, which is going to help, but just talk about Samson, and Dr. Watson will handle the track, and he'll cop it. He's had 2 runs in now, so he'll be fit enough. I thought Samson was the horse who's coming in. I know he's old, but he's coming in here. He's stepping up a lot in distance, but we know who copped the distance. He's performed at a higher level than these horses consistently over his life. He hasn't won a lot of races, but he's been competitive in Group 1s and weight for age races even.
So this is the sort of the dilemma, because in that race you had Duffers Creek, who I thought was outstanding, and then Duffers Creek went and we saw Tiaraha and sort of was disconnected but made good ground late. So Duffers Creek had Samson well covered last start. Samson very much suited to 2040. Question mark Duffers Creek whether the 2000 is really his go, but still he has performed okay over similar distances in the past. So yeah, it's a tough one for me. I sort of put a line through Tiara and thought that Duffers Creek at $10 is actually not a bad spec, and Strolling Vagabond, I really liked what she was able to do over the 2 feature races on the flat there during the Winter Carnival, the Winter Cup itself, and then the 1800 metre Classic. So I just had small plays on both of them because it's pretty well priced. There wasn't too many spoils to be had for mine.
I like the old fellas. Samson and Dr. Watson. I'm willing to go 3 units one, 2 units the other. I'll probably muck around and see what prices they are, but if I had to have one bet in the race, it would be Samson. He's won here before over this distance. He'll cop it. I think the step up in distance will see a significant improvement in his last start performance, which was just a pipe opener for for the longer stuff.
Okay, Charlotte O'Byrne will take the ride and take the 3 kilos off Samson. Race number 6, the St John's Club Open Handicap over 2,040 from Wanganui on Saturday. Stay with us here on the first call. After this, we head south to Riccarton Park.
Hypnotise will do it. 3, quick more than steeplechasers. Go you good thing. Hypnotise, brilliant.
Isaac Lupton in the colours of Raymond Connors last weekend, or the weekend before, named Jumps Jockey of the Year, of course, Isaac Lupton this year with no ride in the race. And obviously on Sunday we'll have all of the coverage on TAB Trackside 1, myself, Brendan Popwell and George Simon. Let's have a look at Riccarton Park on Saturday and set the scene there. Heavy 10, rails out 6 metres, morning cloud then fine and some light winds. The track had plenty of racing on it. They had, what, 30 races through the first week of August. Had a little bit of time to recover, but you would imagine they'll be looking for some decent ground.
Yeah, and how that track plays in terms of how holding it is, because I understand there's been a bit of rain during the week in Christchurch, but better weather today, good drying weather today and tomorrow. So again, a scenario of drying and holding more than necessarily being loose. But
small field 2 is not going to help our feature race on the Carthy Open over 1,600 metres, and we're going to take a look at the market for this now. It is the Christchurch Casino Open Handicap, Nashville. He gets 3 kilos off, $3.40. Elfie $2.90, $3.30 for Flying Sardine, and Hoodier's wins at $4.50. Who would you have had favourite out of those 4 in your market, Jason?
I had Flying Sardine favourite in my market, so I marked her the favourite in the race from Nashville. And then Elfie, Hoodier's wins, nothing between them. So very much they're the 4, but I had a few differences in those prices.
Speedmat could be difficult with a small field for Nashville. Obviously, he's a get-back type. What did you like about Flying Sardine in terms of how you saw the race unfolding?
I think for Nashville, actually, what helps him is that the pace isn't going to be as strong as it was at Hastings when Big Mike stretched them out and he lost contact. So he shouldn't lose contact unless Wrapped in Red or Hoodier's wins really roll along strongly, and I don't think that'll be the case. Flying Sardine has been at her best when she's settled just off an even tempo, been presented out wide, and at times she's looked brilliant. She's lined up against Elfie before and gone straight past. I've had a few battles actually, but given the weights, I think that does suit Flying Sardine over Elfie on this occasion. There's not much between their abilities.
So a bet in the race for you, Flying Sardine?
Yeah, Flying Sardine's the one that I'm considering at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have a look at Hoodier's wins, maybe finding its way to the rail and dictating a path up the straight. And 1,600 metres, I think he'll have enough of a kick. And a horse that's placed, what did he run? A nose, second at weight for age level only 3 months ago.
It's a hard one, Hoodier's wins, because that run in the Winter Cup was outstanding. Yeah. And then it was, OK, 3 wide, had no cover, but was still only fair in the Classic following that. So at his very best, then he could control that race, and he might not. You know, they might not be able to run past him, but yeah, I just like how Flying Sardine presents and the turn of foot that she can show if things pan out, come centre track and get it done on the line. Corey Campbell, he's in super form.
Corey Campbell, get up. Flying Sardine. Let's go to Te Aroha. We'll set the scene for there as we are ticking through the show. Don't forget, Dan O'Sullivan's still coming up later on to talk all things Australia before we get through our bets. Te Aroha on Sunday, though. Moving from Ellerslie, Jason Tan. No big hill this year. 6,300 metres.
I couldn't tell whether we were moving. I was getting scared the camera's coming closer and we're scaring people with their head.
6,300 metres, gruelling staying test, though.
Yeah, no hill, which is, you know, obviously the hill makes the race so rich, but gruelling staying test is the big thing. So there'll be a lot of horses and riders wanting to go for the oxygen tank, turning into the straight the last time, as is the case and as what makes this race so great. The ultimate jumping stayer is what it finds, and whilst not over the hill and not quite as long, it will still find that.
Let's have a look at the market for the steeplechase. Perry Mason obviously lines up in this race. He's won his last couple and was very good at Te Aroha at his last start. And you've got a horse in here as well like Chocolate Fish, who's had 20-odd starts. He's only won one of those, but I would imagine that the 6,300 metres staying test of the Great Northern Steeplechase would be to an advantage for him. He was obviously good enough in the Coral Steeplechase Chocolate Fish. You remember him having to leap the fallen horse at the last fence.
Oh, like he should have won it right, but he just hasn't had things go his way. He's put himself into most of the jumping features that he's lined up in this season, or this jumping season at least. So, you know, you just, in some ways, you want him to be able to get that prize and the connections will be stuck. But he's building up that reputation of being there, but having another horse that might be able to run past him. Perry Mason surely brings the best form and fits into it, Michael Guerin, with the 65 quite nicely.
When you go back to the last start win, it bolted it, and you get the feeling that Old Countess was the best Northern trial because it was closing, but I think Aaron Carew had the option just to go when he wanted to, and he decided to shoot clear at the 600.
Win that race, right?
Exactly.
Like
win the race and not worry about it too much. And I think Old Countess is priced too shortly here, even though I'd love to see her win. I think a mare winning the Great Northern doesn't happen that often, and it's always a cool feeling when it does, but Perry Mason's clearly the bet here. I mean, Shamal's very good, and they've had some decent clashes this year, and at Trentham we went the other way, but I think the 3 kilos, or 2.5 kilos it might be, over 6,300 metres is an awful lot of weight. And look, I don't think he got too serious here. He won this pretty easily, and I think Aaron has the option to wait till later to push the button on Sunday. So I thought he was the clear top pick in the race for the fact that he's won the lead up, he's fit, he has an outstanding rider, and he's well weighted for a horse of his ability.
I completely agree with what you said before, and I'm with you being the top picker. I found a horse at 30-odd to 1 that you're probably going to look at and think, what's this guy's sort of, I don't know, what side of the bed. Tis a Secret this time last year ran a really good race in the Northern. I get the feeling that the ultimate trip really suits him. He's a son of Zed. He's been only fair this prep. In fairness, his level this prep hasn't been as good as what it was last preparation. But to me, there's something there that says that he's a son of Zed. He'll enjoy the ground, like he gets through that sort of really testing ground okay, and that he might be one of the last horses sort of standing when they get to the back end of the distance of the race. So, main bet Perry Mason, and I'm happy to have, it is a little bit of a dart, I'm happy to have a little dart at 33.
It's a nice grand final, because sometimes we get to this stage of the season and some of the better jumpers don't go to the Northern because they're not hill horses. But I think this is a nice way to end the big part of the jump season by putting together some of the biggest race winners and saying, look, you're in a race where no one's disadvantaged. There's not some big hill that some can cop and some can't. And it's going to be really unusual to have it not at Ellerslie, but it's going to be spectacular. And of course, we have the hurdles, which is earlier. And it's strange. A horse I would absolutely, 4 weeks ago, said had no chance of being a factor in this race, is going to be a factor in this race. I'm not sure for how long. Galante only won a maiden hurdle last start, but it beat El Lucador, and even though El Lucador fell at the last, it had it beaten, and it had it well beaten. Now, if somebody had told me on Galante's early New Zealand form, I was going to give him any chance. I'm not saying he's going to win, but he's going to be a factor in this race. But the horse I think everybody's talking about for both you gentlemen is Jack Frost. He's a lovable horse. He was great in the Grand National, and then he's had the arrogance to come out on the flat and beat other horses. He just picks himself. I'm not saying he'll just win, but those things are just... You just don't see Grand National winners go back to the flat and win. I'm not saying it's a record, but it wouldn't happen too many times in the last 50 years. Not inside a month.
Oh, look, I completely concur, and everything about his preparation was set for the Riccarton race. He's obviously come out of it well, as evidenced by that flat performance. The way he races says that 4,200 metres is going to be perfect, because that's how he's been taught to race. It's yielded results already. Yeah, he's hard to go past. I can't mark him shorter than 2 to 1, mind you, just the nature of it, but...
Ironically, he might start about 2.8 because I reckon the army will come for him. He's the love horse and he'll get the love on. We talked about ginger nuts earlier on. Some horses people just love, and he might be the love horse this weekend.
What about Laykeeper? Are we going to put Laykeeper aside? He has a fantastic record at Te Aroha. Is that an advantage over Jack Frost, do you feel?
I think the price makes more sense, and I think he's going to be a horse who's going to be close to the speed and hard to run down. But Jack Frost, the Ashburton thing just blew me away. I was like, really? How did that happen? So I can't go against him, but I'm not sure I'll bet in the race. I think the Galante thing's really interesting because sometimes when horses stop trying, you need to put him over the fences, and I thought he was as good a maiden hurdle winner as we've had for a while, considering the class of the horse he had beaten before the last fence.
I wonder whether there'll be any speaking for Zedi Dudadico, another horse that on the heaviest and holding type, or the heaviest of tracks.
Won it last year.
Absolutely flies, like absolutely loves it. But
he's hard to find.
Oh, he's very hard to find. But when you know that it's a heavy testing track, then you can spec him, and they've made, you know, his army of supporters have made a bit of money off him on that basis. But he even kept Kano. You know, second innings, very good jumper.
This time of year, Sunday's a long way away. I know it's Friday morning, but the way it rains sometimes.
Well, it has been in the last 10 days. Sundays, you know, it's been like months.
Trust me, 10 days ago there wasn't a Masaha report. A lot of things have changed in racing in the last 10 days. So I'm wanting to wait till Sunday to play, but I can't imagine something's going to happen that's going to not make me think Jack Frost is top pick in the race.
Okay, we're all Jack Frosters. We'll leave it there. Jack Frost, Jack Frost, Jack Frost. Let's have a look at the best bets from last weekend. I'm crawling back just. Jason Tan, $4 the price around your best bet. Who was it?
Gorbachev.
Gorbachev. Smashed them. Good ride too.
It was. And the race
early play too. You got it early, which is nice. Early money's good money because then you can play with theirs.
Aidan Rodley, he's not here, so we're not going to really worry about that.
Nelson.
Your best bet for this week?
Going to Te Aroha and Hello Milady. So Hello Milady to me, $2.50 early price. Look, it's just on the cusp of being short enough given the track conditions, but her last start run said that she's going to be 100% for Sunday, and trainer's happy too.
I've got one here and there. Perry Mason Sunday for here. Best bet, maximum bet job, unload the account.
That's the MBJ.
Just go. Second time ever I've said it on Trackside. The Autumn Sun resumes in Sydney on Saturday. This is the best 3-year-old in Australia. It won't only win this, if it handles Caulfield, it'll win the Caulfield Guineas. They're giving about $1.90. Just take it. And if your maximum bet is $100, this is it. Pid your $100 on this.
There we go. Maximum bet job. What do we call it? The
MBJ.
MBJ. Maximum bet job. Well, I think Frosty will be shouting the beers again on Sunday. Jack Frost in the Great Northern Hurdle, isn't it? Not the steeple. Little offences. Stay with us. We're back after this. We'll chat to Dan O'Sullivan in Australia.
Bonneville up to Galo Chop. Bonneville takes Galo Chop, and Bonneville won again.
There's nothing holding me back. She says that she's never afraid. Just picture everybody naked.
The Dato Tan Nam Stakes featuring Bonneville on Saturday. Dan O'Sullivan on the line to preview a couple of races, also the Run to the Rose. Dan, good morning, welcome to the show. How's the last week been for you?
Yeah, things are good, thanks.
All right, Dan, we've got a couple of races to look forward to on Saturday, the Run to the Rose and also the Dato Tan Nam Stakes. Let's start off with the Dato Tan Nam Stakes featuring our very own Bonneville. Night's Watch is $3.70, Hartnell $3.70. Bonneville is $6. What did you make of the price around her?
Oh, look, I think Bonneville's a really interesting runner in this race. She won the race last year. Look, and if she certainly ran anywhere near that, she'd be extremely hard to beat again on Saturday. I guess the query is just the fact that she hasn't raced for almost the 12 months. So it'll be interesting to see what the market tells us about how forward she is. I'm around the $7 mark for her, so plenty of respect there. She's a huge talent. This is a really nice race for her to resume in. She's definitely one of the horses that can win. I think it's a very, very open race. There's quite a few winning chances. landed with Hartnell on top, 440. I'm still longer than the market. Look, he was pretty good first up, good solid rating, and I think the key is here that he just looks the map really well despite drawing wide. He can just press forward and cross a couple inside and follow Spanish Reef across, and he looks like he could land one out, one back here, and he's going to be the one ready to strike as they turn and run up to a good figure. And he's one of the few horses in this race that doesn't have some sort of query over him. Night's Watch is favourite at the moment, or equal favourite with Hartnell, 370. I just found that a little bit short. I'm a huge fan of this horse. I think he's really promising and he may win a Group 1 during the spring. It's just a matter of he's stepping up to weight for age here from the win last Saturday. And I think the market's probably built a little bit too much potential for improvement into his price. He's the type of horse that I'm looking, to peak when he gets to 2,000 metres. So, look, there's no doubt he can win tomorrow, but I just think he's a little bit too short at that price. I think looking at the best long shot in the race is probably Spanish Reef. She will potentially lead here. She's first up, so look for the market for a lead as to how fit she is. But she ran a couple of really good ratings when she ran 3 races last prep, and if she ran up to those sort of figures at around the $13 mark, then she'll be really hard to run down in this race and can definitely run a place.
Run to the Rose on Saturday as well. Is it a case of a 2-horse race there between Graf and Zusain?
Look, I think so. This race for me is really all about Graf. He's unbeaten in the 3 runs. He returned with a terrific, really top-class performance when he won first up over 1,100 metres. He's going to be better over 1,200 metres. Those figures are clearly better than anything else in this field. Rosehill track has got a bit of sting out, soft 6 at the moment. He won on a soft 5 last start. He is drawn wide and will get back, but with the rail true, they're going to be coming away from the fence in the straight, so the conditions will give him every chance to run on from the back. And if he's anywhere near that first up run, then I don't think anything can beat him in this race. So I think around that 265, 270 is a really appealing bet in the race. Zusain is the one being spruiked off his Brisbane winter form. And look, I've got a lot of respect for Chris Waller's record at turning these type of 2-year-olds into really good 3-year-olds. But for me, Zusain just doesn't have the figures on the board yet. And it's fine to speculate about a horse's improvement and so on, but not taking around $4.20 for that. I really want sort of $8 to $10 before I'm speculating on the potential that a horse may have. I'd much rather be with Graf, who's got the figures on the board at his last run. And that's the best long shot in the race is Sandbar, who was really good first up, winning, giving the opposition weight. And will race up on the pace here. And if they do happen to slow up in the middle stages, it could be hard to get past it around that $10 mark. Dan, just recapping your best bets for us here on the first call. Oh, yeah, Moonee Valley, I like a horse, race 3. It's a horse called Approach Discreet, a Darren Weir runner who really jumped out of the ground in Adelaide, won by a big space, and his record of getting these type of horses to maintain their forms are really good. So I think at around the 3.10 mark, he's a really nice bet. And that Rose Hill, I'm going to go to race 7, Champagne Cuddles, really classy. She's a 4-year-old mare now. But look, her ratings are comfortably better than the opposition here. She's ready to go first up. I know the stable's keen on her, and inside draw is probably not ideal with the track conditions, but look, I think she's perhaps got a nice little edge over this field, and she'll be hard to beat at around a similar price, at $3 mark. OK, there's Dan O'Sullivan with his thoughts. TRB Horse Racing. Give him a follow on Twitter, and we're very thankful for the information that he's provided us here on the first call this morning. From Australia, let's head to Petone and link with our bookmaker Thad Taylor. Thad, good morning. Welcome back to the show. You've got the short sleeves on today.
John, with the short sleeves. Get summer down here in Wellington. It's beautiful in Petone today, warm.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that for us here too, isn't it? What about racing on Saturday? Obviously, Botty's a horse that I want to touch on first of all. Have you seen any money coming for him early?
Yeah, absolutely. People have been sitting waiting for Botty to resume. I mean, we went out $1.30 when he debuted there at Pukekohe. The whole world was on that day. I'd suggest they'll be willing to back it up at around 2.7. So, yeah, they're going that way. And the Guineas, obviously, Antonard, a pretty stern challenger, good form, 3.6. And obviously the stablemate of Botty, Red Beach, because of the amount of money we've seen for Botty, I think Red Beach will be on the drift from that 5.5. What
about the girls on Saturday in the O'Leary's, Thad?
Yeah, look, it's a very even market, as the boys touched on. London Express looks like the way they are going currently. Obviously, Secret Allure of the 2 second favourites, slightly better backed at this stage than Peaceful. But, yeah, at this stage, London Express is the best backed in the race.
Thad, at Riccarton, we'll be previewing that on the Punters Lounge a little bit more, but can you give us any market leads for what's happening for that meeting?
Yeah, probably only one at this stage is the Open Mile, Jason. Matthews' selection, actually, Who Dares wins. This horse has caused us some headaches in the past. They're thinking he's going to be causing some headaches tomorrow. 4.5 currently, and clearly best backed at this stage in the Open Mile.
Yeah, I know about those headaches.
Hopefully we won't be getting any headaches after Frosty shouting the beers on Sunday. Jack Frost there. Opening of that market, has there been any movement there?
There hasn't been any movement, Matt, but they've got a lot of money off Jack Frost after that Riccarton Carnival. They're certainly willing to reinvest it around him. He's been the only one that they've really backed in that race. Obviously, Galante, the interesting runner out there at 8.5, but at this stage, all Jack Frost and a very even steeples. Shamal, Perry Mason, Chocolate Fish. They do like an up-and-comer, though. Perry Mason at 3.5 is best backed. I didn't even mention Southern Countess, who is storming home as well. She's right in contention, so that is a very interesting Great Northern steeple.
All right, good information there, Thad. What about option 1, selection 1?
Well, you're a bit concerned about what was going to happen with Botty in the run, boys. You know, whether he's going to get back, whether he can pick up a leading Antonarton. Here's a bit of insurance for you. You can have 2.10 around Botty. If he does storm home and run second or third, can't pick up Antonarton, we'll refund your money. So you can have 2.10 around Botty in option 1, selection 1, Matt, and if he runs second or third, we'll refund your bet.
You're a great man, Thad. Thanks for your time. See you next week.
See you then.
Thad Taylor, 2.10. Your thoughts on the price, Jason?
I find it hard to see Botty not finishing in the 3, irrespective of how the track plays. It's just a case of if the inside's hot, will he have too much ground to cover to make up on maybe a horse like Antonarton?
4 of them are fillies. I'm pretty sure I'll beat them home. So yeah, it's a sound bet if you want. If you're having a big bet, if you're having 50% of your stake, you know you're not much chance of losing it all there. But there's not also a lot of top end in it either. So one of those things where if you feel like having a bet on him, it's nice insurance just in case the track plays to the leaders.
2 minutes, Jason. You start.
Okay, very quickly through the bank bets. Again, you can go online to find these. There are a lot of them because I thought there were a few horses worth specking. So there at Whanganui, with Botty being the main bet there at Riccarton. Devil May Care will run well. Morse Code will run very well. Spoke with Matthew Pittman and he's happy with how she's come up. Okay, question mark on quite whether she'll get through the track, but she's well. Conclusion, Flying Sardine, I like in race number 7 there at Riccarton. At Te Aroha, Hello Milady is my best of the weekend, and in the Great Northern Steeplechase, Perry Mason, 'Tis a Secret. Couple of multis, again, all summarised on the Punters Lounge.
I'm going to wait to see how the track plays at Whanganui before I get involved. I'll be looking for the horses who are going to be in the right part of the track. I'm backing Perry Mason for something on Sunday. I'm going to have my MBJ on the Autumn Sun. So I'm having a serious bet on it tomorrow. It's a good horse.
All right, I like it. I like your confidence there, Michael. Thank you. The Autumn Sun. Okay, well, I'm going to head to all 3 meetings on the weekend. 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. Botty at Whanganui, 50 to win on him. Going straight on the snout of Frankie the Fox in race 2. He steps to 1400, a son of Ego, who was very good first up. William James, he's on a path to the 2000 guineas, a son of Ocean Park. Who Dares wins in race number 7, going to have a spec on him at 50s. A wee multi there, Frankie the Fox, William James. And I think I'll have Bubbles. It was one horse probably that I was most confident about getting a return through the day was a place bet on it. $10 Quinella in race number 2 at Te Aroha. That's how it goes. Jack Frost, Hello Milady, Perry Mason, 440 total spend. Stu Lang, let's have a look and see what he's done this week. Whanganui, tab.co.nz/punters lounge. You will find all of Stu's bets. I like his win multi there. Switch in time, Hello Milady, and Call Me Bob. That is on Sunday at Te Aroha. He's taking a $195 total spend. So we have time for on the first call this morning. Michael, enjoy the rugby and the Son of Nelson.
I'll enjoy the racing and the rugby. I hope everybody has a profitable weekend.
Jason Tan, thanks for your time, and your hair looks great.
Thanks all. Stay safe.
There we go.
That was a lie.
Stay safe. This has been the first call. Don't forget to join the Punters Lounge Saturday morning with all of the up-to-date information. Have a good weekend.
I got gas in the tank.